for it to turn, one side has to go faster than the other side, so it turns.
That's not how they...
That's a really poorly made torpedo.
You know what? The Mark 14 torpedo was possibly the most poorly made torpedo in history.
Okay, so...
The story is behind the torpedo. The short version is, until 1944, the U.S. did not have a torpedo that actually worked, and our subs kept shooting ships and nothing happened.
Mm-hmm.
And in 1944, they finally fixed it when it was kind of the end of the war. Anyway.
What was the first torpedo ever?
The Well, the first torpedoes were just bombs on sticks that were stuck out of the front of ships.
Okay.
When people said torpedo in the old times, that's what they meant.
It was a bowling ball candle on a long stick.
It was a bowling ball candle on a long stick.
And you would poke it out the front of your boat.
And there was a notable moment in history where the first torpedo ship blew up another ship without itself blowing up. Torpedoes used to be bullshit. All right, I think we're good again.
History of the torpedo.
Yeah, my Monday show. I got a lot to say about torpedoes.
Okay.
You know, there's the Russian Space Minute.
Why don't we play? I'm sure we could find a game on Steam where it's like Torpedo Simulator.
Ooh. All right, I just need you to say, "I'm Scott."
I'm Scott.
Okay, I can put that in there later. All right, I got a good opening bit now. Where everything's going, we're streaming.
Your audio messed up.
Yeah, there's a bunch of people here now.
Sad people.
They're waiting for us to come back. So, yeah, we're back. We actually had some fun times just now. So I got a brand new opening bit. Basically, in the last episode of Geek Nights, anyone who's watching the live stream might have noticed that after like 3/4 of the show, Scott just got really quiet for a while, and then he got loud again.
Uh-huh.
So
how come you can't just set up the audio equipment perfectly one time and leave it that way forever? Why you got to mess with it?
So I didn't mess with it. It had been the same for years.
Uh-huh.
I had not touched it at all.
Uh-huh.
And then after you left, I was like, "Oh, that's weird." So I corrected it because the raw audio goes into like the computer, and what's going out to the live stream is actually something. It's like a different pipeline, so they're independent of one another.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, previously, the last time that this happened, I identified an XLR cable that was legit bad, and I threw it away, and I replaced it with a new XLR cable. It seems like the port Scott was plugged into is also having a problem.
Mm-hmm.
As Scott saw me test and go, "Hey, something's wrong here."
But you plugged your microphone in port too, and it looked like it was working.
It was, but what you didn't hear, because I got these headphones on, is there was a really weird crackling sound, and I would cut out and get quiet.
I thought the crackling was in the compressor area.
That it was in that compressor pipeline, because that's a different pipeline. So when I monitored that crackle went away when I removed this port from the equation. So the plot thickens. I don't want to replace this mixer because I really like this mixer, so I'm going to have to investigate that port.
Get your Rice Krispies out of here.
The thing is, remember, this mixer is the Firewire only one, so I kind of want to go USB.
Yeah, it's your money's.
Well, the thing is, I don't want to replace this mixer unless it's dead.
Uh-huh.
So I got 4 ports.
Rim loves this is another situation. Rim's gonna break something on purpose to feel not bad about buying a new thing.
I do not want to buy a new mixer. This mixer's great, and actually, as far as I can tell, all the good mixers are also Firewire, so I can't even achieve what I wanted. So we'll see. That's neither here nor there. We'll talk about that more on Monday when I'll figure out. We'll do a Monday show on QA, and we'll talk about the Mark 14 torpedo.
All right. So this is just some tiny gaming news is going down, right? On Thursday, the Hearthstone expansion comes out, and it's going to have, I'm not going to encourage people to go spend their money on digital cards. You're better off spending your money on real cards first, right? If you're going to do collectible cards. But
some Magic cards.
They're adding a single-player free-to-play mode that actually has significant play and replay value. So, and you don't have to pay a single dime for that. So, why not check it out?
Oh yeah, if you play Hearthstone,
Even if you don't play Hearthstone, it's like you could just it has this free. They're going to add a free single-player mode that is worth playing, and worth playing until you get bored of it.
Yeah. I guess I kind of avoided going down the road of Hearthstone because between that and Overwatch, I can really only have one game that I play every day.
No, I mean I only play it every day for like 30 minutes less.
Yeah. I play Overwatch every day for like an hour, pretty much.
Yeah, anyway.
And I'm still only like gold tier.
So speaking of Overwatch, we've been waiting for them to actually have this league with teams that are actually located in cities so we can have our New York eSports team for finally. And I guess tomorrow the jerseys go on sale, so we'll see if they're ugly or not. I imagine they will be.
It better say New York somethings.
Yeah, but, maybe it'll be good enough to buy, but I doubt it. But if it is, I will, but probably won't.
I do appreciate the fact that the teams have in-game jerseys for all the characters too.
I think you got to pay for those.
Oh yeah. But if you're the team, you wear your jersey in the game.
Yeah,
Like that.
wouldn't that be weird if you were playing like hockey online and you couldn't wear a Rangers jersey on your team?
Yeah.
It'd be like,
Or you're watching a real NHL game back in the future when the NHL is replaced by nothing but esports, and like the equivalent of Grabner or Zuccarello is wearing like a dragon mask and boffer shoes and carrying a broom instead of a hockey stick.
yeah, let's not go to that world.
There is actually some pretty big news, and we're not going to be able to talk about the full extent of what this means, but it's something I want to bring up today.
Yeah, this was so awesome when I saw it, and I was like, whoa, what have I been missing out on?
I'm going to read the headline on Ars Technica because it literally summarizes my full sentiment.
Yeah.
Formula One esports now more exciting than the real thing, and that's a problem.
Yeah, so there's always been this Formula One racing games, even going back to like the Game Boy. But this there's an official F1 game that like is licensed and has all the actual drivers and cars in it. That's been coming out for quite a few years, and I never bought it because every year it would come out and I'd say, "Ooh, that looks really cool," but how much am I actually going to play it?
Yep.
And it's real expensive.
And also, I've played realistic driving simulators before.
I suck ass at them.
They're a simulator of how many ways Rim can die.
Right, and it's definitely a sim. Like, it tries to be super accurate to the real world. Like, you could practice driving with it, right? If you get a wheel and pedals. And then it would get cheap, and I'd be like, ooh, and then the new one would come out. And I'm like, wow, I don't want to buy the old one. Oh, it's only worth it to get the new one, but the new one's expensive, so I never played it. But apparently, it's actually an esport, like playing this game, and because it doesn't have any, even though it's modeled on the real world Formula One, it's not constrained by the real world in the same way. It's still a simulation, and I'm not sure exactly which parts are accurate and which parts aren't, but like they had to go in the pits. They were playing with realistic damage on. I noticed that part.
Yep.
But I don't know if like are the cars actually faster than is like hurt you to get in one car that's faster.
Well, here's one thing. Here's
or...
a very interesting example of where this could go.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the most exciting things about Formula One would be the ridiculously dangerous nonsense that they ban because it's too dangerous for people to drive.
Mm-hmm.
With an esport of Formula One, you could bring back ground effects.
There's no reason to not. The thing is, if you're going to have an esport that's a racing game straight up, you might as well just have F-Zero. Why have F1?
Well, so here's the interesting like overlap between
just
those
go
two.
to F-Zero.
Right now, F1 as a real physical sport has a lot of like cultural cachet.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of reasons to be excited about it and to be able to follow it and be interested in it. But as a pure spectator, the graphics and the way it plays out, if you watch someone playing the esport version, it could be an identical experience for all intents and purposes.
Watching the esport F1 was not very different than watching the real one, except obviously you can tell it's not the real world, even though it still looks incredible.
But it looks pretty close. Like if you had not a great TV, they look the same.
Yes. Also, no fuel is being consumed. There's no environmental damage.
Yep.
But it's just a lot shorter. They don't run like a 30, whatever, 60 lap, however many laps it is, right? It was really quick.
Yep. But it was also a lot more exciting, and part of that is
because it was definitely one of the most exciting F1 races I've seen recently.
The people racing can take the risks that a human might not take in a real race. They could also have a lot more races because you don't need all this physical infrastructure to make them happen. It's a lot more accessible. You can do a lot of stuff to make it interesting. And the problem part is that for the average consumer, like someone who wants to watch F1 but isn't like a hyper purist, it's a better experience in literally every way.
Mm-hmm.
Most people cannot go see F1. The fact that I have seen F1 races in person is a position of privilege, and even then I only saw them because someone else paid for it.
Mm-hmm. It's also, because it's shorter, it's a lot less time consuming.
Yeah.
Like the length of that race is the amount is like, I do like F1, but I don't like it enough to wake up early on every Sunday morning and watch a race for hours. But I like it enough to watch one of these maybe once a week, once a month for 15, 20 minutes.
If this continues, esports of physical car racing that are close enough for the layman are going to be the kind of thing I would watch.
I mean, I'm going to go look for like competitive Forza, Gran Turismo, and see what's up with that, right? There must be a scene, and it's like that's a scene I could spectate and be into if it's good. But really, let's just fast forward and get to F-Zero already.
Yeah.
What's the problem? What's holding you up? Make an F-Zero that controls realistically and is very difficult so that it can become an esport, but still have loop-de-loops and jumps and ridiculous cars because, hey, there's no constraints of the real world in there. Make it go like 10,000 miles an hour. Who gives a shit?
Yeah, stunts 4D. That's where we'll get down the road.
Whatever.
I'll get hit down the road.
All right, so...
But it'll be a race between this and the other crazy side of that, which is the drone racing of robot cars in the real world controlled by people who are not in them.
Well, let's just fast forward again and have robot AIs controlling esport cars.
But the driving point...
So it becomes a programming competition, yeah.
The driving point of all this, the thing that you really need to think about and let simmer in your head for like when we talk about this in more depth in the future, is that the only thing that matters for the like future of a sport is the spectator experience. Is it exciting? Is it accessible? And esports are already on track to be better than most real sports at both of those things. That is the important part. This news is a very important thing that not a lot of people are talking about. The direct competition between traditional sports and esports, and how esports are well positioned to destroy the former. And if you think that isn't true, as we like to say, boxing used to be literally the most popular sport on earth. Where is it now?
Gone.
Occasionally on a hockey field. Occasionally on the ice.
Okay, sure.
So you got some other news?
Yeah, so in also sports news, everybody knows that in previous Olympic and other international sporting competitions, Russia do some big-time cheating action.
And this isn't just like an individual player cheating.
No, this is
just like a speculation like, oh, that country is cheating. This was organized
across the board cheating. Like almost every Russian athlete was
probably government assisted.
Big time doping organized by their, whatnot, right? It was like, an epidemic. Not like, oh, one individual from your country on their own cheated. It's like, no. The whole country's sporting organization got together to have a system of cheating in place. Right? And they were caught. They were caught so red-handed. And now, the Winter Olympics are coming up real soon in South Korea. And the big news is that Russia's getting penalized. And they're getting penalized for this cheating. A punishment and this might be the greatest punishment to a sporting organization in the history of sports. Like, within the context of sport.
Yep.
Right? I mean, it's like, it might be like, I guess before that, maybe Lance Armstrong has all his, Tour de France is taken away. This might be a bigger punishment than that. So what they're doing is all Russia cannot participate in the Olympics, period. No Russian flags, no Russian anthems, no Russian nothing.
Yep, they're basically banned. However,
if any athletes from Russia, right, want to go, they can go, but of course they have to be extra doubly, triply, quadruply, thoroughly vetted to make sure they aren't cheating.
Yep.
And if they do participate, they're going to have to wear like boring, generic Olympic things.
They wear the dunce uniform. They cannot use the Russian flag.
Right, like a blank white uniform with Olympic rings on it.
They don't even get their own national anthem.
No, they get the Olympic anthem,
Yep.
Do, 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 do. That one.
Yeah.
Right? They don't get nothing. Nothing Russian can be at the Olympics in South Korea, which is really close to Russia geographically.
Yep, this article says it best. The IOC, after completing their investigation, blah, 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 handed Russia penalties for doping so severe they were without precedent.
No, definitely. I said with that, they've never seen penalties this severe for anyone ever.
This is the kind of penalty that I want to see in esports too.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Yeah.
I want to see, if you cheat, if you do something wrong, if you're harassing people in a game, why shouldn't the penalties be incredibly severe?
Now, this is breaking news.
We're not talking about, I'm not someone who's in favor of death penalties or lifetime prison sentences, but these are penalties which, they're within the context of a game. You can make them as severe as you want, and they actually do work as a deterrent because it's within the context of a game, so why not make them ridiculously severe?
But as this is breaking news today, we don't know yet how Russia has responded or will respond.
Right. I mean,
will
are they
even
gonna
let their athletes attend?
Right. Is
will
there
they
gonna
boycott
be
the Olympics?
Is there going to be a hockey team that is like the Gennaro Olympic hockey team? Because the NHL is not going to the Olympics, so it's going to be all junior teams, and supposedly KHL people would have gone and dominated. Are they going to go? Right? So it'll still be great to watch some hockeys, though, with some Swomies and some Srigays and some
But the two interesting
USAs
questions will be
and some Canadas.
Especially the hockey
Schweiss,
kids,
some Czech.
do the hockey kids care so much about hockey that they'll go play just to play, even if they don't even get to play under their own flag? And secondarily, will the Russian government even let them do that? Because especially because there's more to this.
I think you also need to be invited, and you got to pass through the muster that, if you're from Russia, you're going to have to pass a lot more qualifications and such than anyone from any other country.
There is even more.
They'll check your PP every 2 hours.
So the investigation cost the IOC over $15 million. Russia has to pay all that money before they can even have the option of competing not under their own flag. So I suspect that Russia is going to tell them to eat a dick, and this is going to be a really interesting geopolitical situation, which is extra. It's not really a Tuesday show topic, but considering the current, shall we say, troubles between the United States and Russia, the fact that Russia might end up boycotting
Wait, current
Olympics,
troubles? You mean the almost 50, 60-year-long, 70-year-long troubles?
I guess the reemergence into the public sphere.
Since the mid-40s troubles?
The Russia literally
Troubles as old as Stalin?
swung the American election the wrong way.
Those are the same troubles. They're not any different.
So
same troubles.
I guess I'm going to get to live through a Cold War where Russia boycotts the Olympics.
We already lived through a Cold War. We've been living it our whole lives. We were born in it, and it hasn't ended.
Take two, Boogaloo.
Cool facts. Ovechkin, if he wants to, almost definitely won't. Can go compete for Schweiss if he wants to.
Oh, yeah. That'd be interesting.
It won't happen.
Well,
He'll probably just stay and compete for Das Kapitals.
I feel like, especially
You see what I did there?
Yeah, I see what you did there. I feel like if there are any Russian athletes who could compete under another flag, that would be tantamount to suicide to do so in light of the current political climate.
Also, Ovechkin is like super pro-Putin. He's like Putin's biggest fan.
Well, either he's pro-Putin or it is not safe for him to not be pro-Putin.
I mean, he could just stay in the U.S. He doesn't have to go deal with anything.
Yeah, staying in the U.S. has not always been safe.
Many other Russian athletes in the NHL are not pro-Putin.
Yeah, but it's a complex situation.
And
all
also, he
around.
goes out of his way to be extra pro-Putin, as opposed to just quietly not being anti-Putin.
There's a fun little bit at the end of this article, too. This might be even more interesting down the road. Quote, Tuesday's decision could have consequences for another major sporting event scheduled to be held in Russia, next year's $11 billion soccer World Cup. I like how the article has to specify that the World Cup is soccer.
Well, I mean, I don't think it's an issue because even if the Russians cheat, they're not winning the World Cup.
No. But
they'd have to bribe the refs or something because the refs really control soccer a lot.
It'd be interesting if the World Cup follows suit and maybe that event moves or changes.
Well, has Russian soccer been cheating as much as Russian Olympics were cheating?
I don't know.
It's a different organization, whatnot. So
yeah, and I don't know. So it'll be interesting to see how this all shakes down because this is breaking
news. Did Russia
news.
even qualify for the World Cup?
Well, it's breaking news, and it's night in Russia, so I don't think there's even going to be any response until tomorrow.
Man, they sleepy around. Well, no, it's going to be morning there soon.
Yeah. Well,
Anyway.
We'll see how this goes.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to really briefly...
Well, I mean, it's morning somewhere in Russia. It's so fucking big.
I'm just doing a sanity check and listening to this really
It's
quick.
probably morning in Siberia. That sounds fun.
Yeah, it sounds fun.
It's morning in Siberia, I bet.
All right, that's saved.
Yeah, it's probably well into morning in Eastern Russia.
All right, yeah, everything seems fine. That port, I think, has.
Well,
because
Alaska's only plus 5 or 6 on us, right? 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Yeah, so Russia's a few hours more than that.
I guess I don't think about it because I've never been to Russia.
It's probably early. Well, because Eastern Russia near Alaska is probably only probably early 1, 2, 3 a.m.
But I've never set foot anywhere in Russia.
You probably won't. You will probably die before doing so.
There was a trip planned, and I was in the process of getting a visa to go to Moscow.
Good luck with that.
But that was years ago, and the business deal fell through, so I had no reason to, so I just never got the visa.
It seems like you got the good luck.
Bonsoir! Everyone's saying bonsoir for some reason. Okay. So anyway, things of the day. So I was at the Skojo Lara house party that Scott skipped, and I played a lot of St. Petersburg there. But the night before, we were doing the thing that members of the Front Row Crew do when it's late at night and we're hanging out at someone's house. We were looking at random YouTube videos.
Yeah, random YouTube videos.
And we kept seeing this one video recommended, and it was like, it looked like this guy who had made a lot of chicken fingers. We didn't really think much about it. But eventually we clicked on it, and the video was from this channel called Grandpa Kitchen.
Mm-hmm.
The channel has a lot of videos, and some of the other videos involve such things
Is Grandpa
as
good at cooking?
making a 1,000 egg curry.
Whoa.
Followed immediately.
I've never made a curry with any egg.
The next video was a recipe that involved him using 2,000 eggs.
All right.
But
Just every recipe is 1,000 eggs more than the last one?
I'm not gonna. Basically, one of them was he just makes pancakes. Holy shit! Were those pancakes? Those look so good. The problem was we started watching this video.
What's up, Grant? How can I go? If he's making something with that many eggs, there's got to be enough food to go around. Can I go eat with Grandpa?
So these videos are long, and we watched many. We stayed up way late watching these videos to their conclusion.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to warn you right now: if you watch this video, you're going to be desperate to eat the thing that he made, and it's going to be a problem for you. And we were in Pennsylvania, so there was no way for us to, in fact, get chicken fingers or pancakes at 3 a.m.
No, I can do that. I can do that right now.
So you realize the next morning we all got up early and went to a diner to eat pancakes because otherwise we couldn't have made it.
Uh-huh.
So this video I'm going to link to is the chicken fingers one. These look like the best chicken fingers anyone's ever made on earth. And Grandpa is in India, and he cooks these giant meals for orphans.
Oh, that's why he's got 1,000 eggs.
And the videos are just very long procedural videos of him cooking in the woods with very simple tools, amazing recipes in quantity. And the first half of every video...
Why don't we make Grandpa's chicken fingers?
I want to make Grandpa's chicken fingers. In fact, I plan to make Grandpa's chicken fingers.
Yeah.
They look pretty straightforward. They look so good. So you watch him make these crazy recipes, and then the end of every video is all the orphans eating the food. And it looks fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
This channel is just amazing to watch when you want something kind of chill and low-key. I think it's in my top 10 of favorite things of the day I've ever found.
That reminds me, I think I've told you before, but I don't know if the listeners know. There's a Korean cooking show I watch occasionally called Please Take Care of My Refrigerator. And I don't want to explain the entire concept of the show would take a while, but basically celebrities bring their actual refrigerators to the show, and a bunch of chefs compete to see which food they can make from the celebrity's fridge. Right, and the celebrity decides which one they like most.
I want to see the celebrity who shows up. There's just beer and rotten meat.
Sometimes there is, but basically it's an excuse for the celebrity to promote their stuff, whatever they're up to. Right, for you to see some cool cooking and also to enjoy a lot of banter between the chefs and the celebrities. Right, but usually the episodes are split over 2 weeks. They'll have like one recording session with 2 celebrities. So one celebrity's meals get cooked the first episode, and then a week later you see the other celebrity, right, getting cooked for, right? But this week and next week are truly special. It was the first time I've seen a chef not from Korea on the show.
Ooh.
The famous, maybe most famous chef on earth, the Gordon Ramsay, appeared on this show.
I should watch one episode.
He's going to cook next week. He's got 15 minutes to cook something from a Korean celebrity's fridge.
Whose fridge is it?
I don't know whose it is. I didn't watch.
Okay.
But I'm going to watch. So, oh man. Anyway, my thing of the day.
So the only other thing about this video I just want to point out that's cool is that he makes these giant recipes with a very simple and limited set of tools.
Mm-hmm.
And that is part of why it's so fascinating to watch the entire thing.
Mm-hmm. Anyway, so my actual thing of the day, another excellent craftsman, I guess you could say.
Artisan.
Here's a man who is, I guess, his job is exterminator, and he is called in for this hornet's nest in someone's shed, and the hornet's nest is like engulfed many things in the shed. Like
This is some
their lawnmower
Geiger-esque
and
horror right here.
Yeah, it's a huge ass hornet's nest, and he removes it with the greatest of ease without getting stung even once.
Well, he's basically wearing like armor.
Yeah, but you got to check out this hornet's nest, yo. He's basically got a GoPro with him. I assume it's a GoPro while he's de-nesting the shed.
I'm gonna say if one. How did these people let their shed get to this state?
I don't know, but it's also kind of awesome because when he rips the hive out of there, you can see all the queens at the bottom and stuff, and it's like, oh man.
But if I were them,
There's like a whole bunch of queens.
I would just burn the shed down and start over.
Well, but they got their stuff in there.
Yeah, a bunch of garbage.
Their basketball, their lawnmower.
Yeah, they got this faded ass basketball. They got this pile of what looks like
all
broken
their
screen
their
doors.
gardening tools,
Just.
Can't
It's a
just
shed filled with mostly garbage, and look at the Super Soaker. That looks like a vintage Super Soaker.
Oh man, I want it.
I think it's off-brand actually.
Yeah, the colors are backwards.
Yeah, that's not a Super Soaker 50. For
Anyway,
sure.
this video is still awesome.
So in the meta moment, it is the calm before the storm. We are home, just making Geek Night stuff, but coming up real soon is both MagFest and PAX South.
Mm-hmm.
Not PAX Unplugged. We're just at PAX Unplugged.
Also, New Year's and holidays.
There's going to be a lot of biz in January. So if you are at PAX South, one, it's a full-on PAX, and it's one of our favorite PAXs.
Mm-hmm.
It's more fun than PAX East. I'm just going to say it. I'm sorry, PAX East.
It's true.
And we're going to be there on Friday at 4
But
p.m.
that's just like saying, well, platinum's worth more than gold.
Yeah.
I ain't scoffing at gold.
No.
I like platinum more.
Yeah. Got some Electrum. That's
Woo!
PAX Sauce is the Electrum.
Woo!
So we're going to be there at 4 p.m. doing a brand new panel, a Scott panel, balance and game design. It's looking pretty good.
Like 30% done.
Yep. At MagFest, we're going to be doing a bunch of panels. We're doing probably 3 with the mages, one of which is a different version of this balance panel, where we might have Dr. Hazard on or someone of his caliber with us.
All right, what else do I have to do there? What else is going to pull me away from my Dig Dug machine?
I forget what panels I put in. I got to go look. I put in a brand new one, not a mages panel, but a regular panel. Top 40 tabletop games you should play.
And you're going to come up with this list on your own?
I already started writing it because I saw...
make a Google Doc so I can edit your incorrect list.
So I saw someone else do a similar talk about games as a whole, and the angle wasn't the best 40. The angle is also not the most important 40.
It's cover all the bases 40.
It's if you've played these 40 tabletop games, you will be a player of games and have gnosis about tabletop gaming.
That's right. So if there's even a game like Pandemic, will make that list. And you look at a category, you look at every category of games, right? The 40 most important types of game, and you pick the iconic game from each of those categories.
Yep, not the first one, not the best one, the one that best illustrates.
I don't like co-op, solitaire, pretend Garbo games, but you must play one of them to understand them, and Pandemic is the one.
Yep.
And then you have to play Hanabi to understand why those are Garbo.
Yep, and it basically, I want to try this panel out at MagFest, and then we'll probably tweak the list, and I think we're going to do it at PAX East, like, legit. That's my plan.
All right.
That's a cool one. And I'm doing, you don't have to do this.
RPGs in there?
MagFest has a Saturday morning cartoons panel block where they do a bunch of just fun Saturday morning cartoon type stuff. So I'm going to do the anime openers thing at 8 a.m. on Saturday. Because apparently there's a big crowd of people looking for stuff to do.
As long as I'm getting the free badge, because I'm paying for one. And I didn't pay for one. It would be sad if I showed up and couldn't get in.
MagFest is one of the rare cons I would pay to go to if I were not a guest.
I might, but I just want to make sure I'm doing.
Are you kidding? You would skip MagFest for how much does the badge even cost? $50?
I don't know, but I'm just saying.
I also
I'm on
don't
the
know.
list for the free badge, right? Because I don't have to fill out any other forms or anything.
I don't believe so. There should be some follow-up link or something. Should be fine.
I just want to confirm it because time's getting
The
close.
consternation right now is making sure all the panelists have hotel rooms, which we don't need to worry about because we just get our own.
Yeah, that's right.
I don't try to get into the weird hotel room. We just got our thing.
Nope.
So yeah, we will be at PAX South, not PAX Unplugged. We were there, and MagFest, and PAX East is not too long after that, and we will be there
just
too.
a few months.
All right, we went long there, so I'll keep that short. All right. So if you had to describe a game that most people would assume that Rim and Scott would have no interest in, 1846 should be near the top of that list.
No, I mean, it's not a game we have no interest in. It's
Well,
just,
if
it's
you
just one of those like stereotypical games we sort of always jokingly refer to, right? It's like we laugh about like, train game that uses crayons or grognard war game.
Or train game where you only take 4 turns.
Yeah, this is a a stereotypical grognard train game that we sort of the kind that you see in the game store and you look at and you go, I know that kind of game, and then you don't ever play it.
You very rarely see people playing these kinds of games, and when you do, they tend to fit certain stereotypes.
Yes,
The games tend to take a very long time. The games tend to be more simulatory than the sort of elegant machine building type games we tend to prefer. They tend to be more experiences where you explore a set of complex mechanics rather than a game where you read the rules and already have a pretty good heuristic about what to do.
Yep. They also accurately represent true historical events, at least related to trains in this case, so that you can, learn. So someone who's a nerd about old trains would get jollies playing this game, right? Regardless of the winning and losing factor.
Now, what's funny is that even games like not Age of Steam, but Railroad Tycoon, like the baby version. That game, all the cards when you buy trains, they have that numerical 422, this is a 422 train. And because of that, I actually know what that means.
I don't know what that means.
It's those guide wheels versus drive wheels versus those trailing wheels. How many of each there are.
Oh, okay.
And
I mean only on the locomotive, all the cars behind
yeah, the
it.
locomotive itself.
Yeah.
But 1846 has that amped up to 11.
Mm-hmm.
So this game was basically our friends Chris and Anthony like this game, and they played it. And
there's a whole series of 18XX games that are all train games from different geographies and areas, I guess mostly in the US, but I assume they've also got Euro rails and stuff like that. But, that are, so this one is about the Midwest in, of course, the year 1846, what was happening with train companies there and then.
Yep, and apparently I have not looked at these other games, but I've learned a little bit about them. All the other 18 ... games are very similar, but have soul-crushingly esoteric differences or very specific nuances that make them completely different games.
Right, so it's you could learn one and then easily learn to play another one in a short amount of time once you've learned one, but there will be significant differences. You'll probably not win because you'll mess those up, right? But I guess if you're super studied on train history, maybe you'll just anticipate those differences because they match real-world events so well.
You might know about one of the small railroads, like the Erie line or something, and what happened to it.
And then when you see what happens to it in the game, it makes perfect sense.
Because actually, there is this line that used to go around Lake Erie. It's not in this game, but it is a train line I know a lot about.
Well, was it there in 1846 or before then or after then?
I think it was around. It was around before then, definitely. It just does not play in the 1846 game. I think its heyday was earlier, but I know stuff about it because it's intrinsically tied to the history of Cedar Point.
Anyway.
So yeah, but the other interesting thing about this game, the core point I want to get out in the review before getting into the details, is that we both enjoy it, and I did not expect to feel the desire to not only play it, but to play it again, and having played it twice, to actually really want to play it a third time.
Well, here's the thing, is I don't super want to play it, right? But it's I totally will play it, and it's sort of on this borderline where it's it's got a lot of action, right? One thing I really like about it is that even if you're losing and getting your ass kicked, you still do stuff.
There is an exception to that. Amanda got into a specific situation where she was pushed to bankruptcy by nonsense and literally could not do anything meaningful for many turns in a row.
I guess so, but it's really hard to not do.
It was such a crazy situation, a turn of events that happened that she had no control over.
There's also a lot of, even though the rules are sort of esoteric, there's a lot of flexibility in what you can do in terms of stock trading and train building and train buying.
Well, so there's a bunch of very fiddly, specific, arbitrary seeming exceptions to general rules, but they are further from the core of the things I asked to be able to do than the games where I would complain about that. There's limits on how many stock certificates you can own, but that doesn't really come into play until the very end of the game. So even though that is an arbitrary distinction, it is not something that I bumped into in the course of natural play.
Right. But anyway, so the main thing is like the game takes a little while to play. It takes a few hours.
Yeah.
You can play fast if you've got skills and help and experience, but it still takes a while no matter what.
The game
and
has
it's sort of on this border between where it takes too long, it's not worth it. If it was shorter, it would be like the best game ever. But it's not so long, like Monopoly long, you want to kill yourself. It's like, okay, I put the time aside. It's still, and unlike, say, Eclipse, where there's a lot of time sitting doing nothing, you're doing stuff the whole time. You don't I haven't gotten bored and distracted. Usually when there's an Eclipse playing, Eclipse takes as long or longer, but I'll spend a lot of time during an Eclipse game sitting around being bored, waiting for my turn. In this, that's almost never happens, right?
Because either while I'm waiting for my turn, I'm thinking about like stock value and like, could I pull this off over the next few turns? And I wonder what Scott's going to do. Or I'm watching some drama unfold in the stock market.
Yeah, and you can only do a very small number of things on your turn, so the rounds go around very quickly, and then everyone sort of calculates simultaneously.
Yep.
So without that downtime, like you're into it for those hours, you're actually probably in sort of play per time. It's very efficient, right? Whereas Eclipse, if you actually, you know how like they talk about if you took an NFL game and cut out all the commercials, the game is only like 20 minutes of real time or something like that, of actual playing from like start of plays to end of plays. This game is like, no, it's actually 4 hours long and use the whole 4 hours. Eclipse is like 5 hours long, but actually you're only using like 1 hour of your own time and 4 hours of waiting.
But it is also interesting how such a sort of divergent and simulatory experience is crafted from a relatively small set of relatively elegant mechanics.
Yeah, no, there's not actually. It's like, it looks complicated, it feels complicated, but if you were to, say, redraw this game or graphically design it to remove all the history stuff and the reality stuff, and
I would not be interested.
Well, yeah, but make the symbology, more
I see where you're going
iconic,
with this.
Right? You would see the game actually isn't really as complicated as it appears.
Yep.
Right? It is actually not. It's like, oh, you have a round where you do stock stuff, and then you have 2 rounds of playing the game, and then you do stock stuff again.
But what's
That's
also
it.
interesting is
Stock market, play, stock market.
games
You
like,
go around and around
games
and around.
like this that are reasonably simulatory, like that kind of game style, the fact that it has so much history steeped into it, like the proper nouns and all those like other train companies, it actually helps you build pretty reasonably good directional heuristics.
Yeah.
Based on just associating the fiction of the game with the mechanics.
Mm-hmm.
Like the combinations of some of those like independent railroads and certain things you might want to do in a region is very intuitive, like it would be in the real world.
Mm-hmm.
So the only real problem I have with this game, before we get into like explaining how it actually works, is that there's a concept in that book, Characteristics of Games, on called busy work, like games that have busy work, like
This
stuff.
does have one busy work in it.
But I'm gonna go one step further, and I want to make a distinction. I've been using this word a lot lately in game reviews between pure busy work and what I like to call rituals. This game has a lot of rituals,
Rituals are fine.
meaning that they are things that are moderately complex to do, need to be done for the game to continue, but they can be basically entirely removed from your, like, you don't need to know them to play as long as at least one person playing knows them.
I think it's basically there's a bunch of stuff that a computer could do, and then the game would take a lot
Well,
less
hence,
time.
Chris had that spreadsheet that we use for the dividends and all that crap.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't have that spreadsheet, it takes longer to figure that out. So there is a ritual of moving the stock stuff up and down and figuring out the numbers on the dividends.
Yeah,
and all
this
that
one makes a
stuff.
triple jump. That one makes a double jump. It's
Yep.
like, I didn't need to know. I mean, I guess it would have helped me have better directional heuristics if I did fully understand that.
But I found you don't need to fully understand it to play well.
I didn't need to. I was able to play well enough without knowing the exact excruciating details, but because the board game, someone has to know them, but only one person needs to know them and sort of be the computer.
So that's my difference. Busy work is things that are generally equally spread among the players.
Like, imagine if you were playing Civilization, the video game, on tabletop, but the rules were not changed at all. You have to be like, okay, this city produces this much food this turn. Okay, it has enough food for population to increase,
Yep.
which means this much food gets eaten and this much surplus food is left over. And it's like a thing that when you play the video game, the computer just does for you. But because you're playing a board game here, you have to do that yourself.
Yeah,
and
but
that
you
part,
can
sucks.
choose to zoom in and pay attention to the specific math if you want to, but you don't need to for most
You just need to
heuristics.
know generally, I want my population to go up, I need more food.
So in this game, the ritual is that as long as one person can facilitate all the details, which Chris did for us, then
I probably couldn't play if it wasn't with.
yeah, the
someone doing
game is
that.
way more fun. And that's why I'd be very interested in a well-made computer version of this game, because the only other thing that has significant ritualistic... Well, this one actually is busy work, because players have to do it on their own.
This is the busy work I was referring to.
Calculate the optimal set of routes to run your trains on.
Right. So here's how this works: is each train company.
Yeah, let's talk about how the game actually plays.
Right, so you have a train company. And
Well, no, you don't. You found a train company.
Yes, sure, whatever.
And you might have
the
more
train
than one.
There's the train.
And someone might steal it from you.
Whatever. The train companies have money and trains and stocks. You, as an individual person, also have monies and trains and stocks, right? And whoever has enough stock in a company controls that company. But obviously, someone could buy all the stock and take the company.
Yep.
There's companies that don't exist yet in the game. At the beginning of the game, everyone buys one company or founds one. But there's some unfounded ones. You can always pick those up mid-game.
You might found a second one. You could have two different train companies.
Yeah, it's like, but anyway.
There's independent train companies. You can
Right.
technically have a third one.
When it's your turn, when you operate the companies that you control because you have enough stock in them that you're the president and you are the boss of that company.
Now,
right?
this is where it gets fascinating. The goal of the game is for you, the player, to have the most money at the end.
Yep.
But your money is entirely distinct from the company's money.
Mm-hmm.
That is the interesting thing. So when you operate a train company, you spend the train company's money.
Yeah, you can't use your personal money to buy a train for the train company.
But you can
in
buy
order to-
stock in a train company, and that money goes
right.
to the train
so
company.
If the company still owns some of its own stock, you could buy stock from the company, thus to move your money in and the stock out. And then when the train company gets revenues, those monies go to the shareholders. So if you own shares in a company or your opponent's companies, when that train company operates and brings in revenue, you would get some of that money. But the train company still owns some of its own shares. That's how it gets more money. If a train company loses all of its shares, it can't really make any more money, and it has to continue to operate without any revenues because shareholders are taking all the revenues.
Yep. Now, the other interesting thing is that the train companies, they can invest in their own infrastructure, which basically just means buying trains.
Yep.
And they can invest in shared track infrastructure that literally anyone can use.
This is the most interesting part of the game, right? Is that in most train games, like in Railroad Tycoon, you're moving cubes around and stuff like that, right? That's not what's going on here, right? What happens here is on a train company's turn when it operates, it can basically like do only a little bit, very limited how much track they can lay out. They can do one upgrade and one piece of track?
Yep.
Pretty much, or two pieces of track, I think.
But not two upgrades.
No.
I messed that up like twice.
Yeah. So you can only lay out a little bit of track. And what you want, and the thing is, the tracks belong to everybody. There's no owner of track. It's just you're upgrading the tracks around the country.
Or the city where the train station is. So if you upgrade Centralia and have a better train station, that's great for everybody.
Right. And now the train company has stations. And if all the stations in a city are blocked up, well, then someone else can't run their trains past it. But as long as they basically, your trains start from one of your stations, and then they run where, as long as they're not blocked, pretty much to wherever they're going to make the most money. And so this is the busy work part, is basically you say, well, this train company has these two trains. These two trains can drive this far. Here's where my stations are. What are the routes that will make the most money for these two trains?
And this is where a video game, you could literally hit a button and it would tell you the maximum run.
Yeah, it's not like a decision. It's just like, what's the answer? You're trying to look at the board and figure out like how much money. It's like the rule is you make the maximum, but it's like, what is the maximum? You had to it's like a little.
And you might choose to make less, and there are situations where that might make sense.
Yeah, sure, but you make the maximum. It's just,
pretty much.
You might fail to figure out the maximum because it's hard to figure out. It's like, well, I can use all the tracks on the board. What is the best route? Well, I guess it's these 4 stations, and most of the time you get it right, but it's like annoying. If you played in a computer, the computer could just be like, your revenue is X. Done. It would take a fraction of a second.
Part of my brain, it's kind of fun until the map gets really complex toward the end.
Yeah, in the early game, it's very obvious because you've only got like 2 stations. Like, well, it's these 2 stations, I get $80. But later in the game, it's like, oh, no, I can get $10 more if I go this way. All right. And The other thing is that your trains cannot share track. They can't like bump into each other.
Like each track route or each hex edge can only be used once for you.
But someone else can use those hex edges. Just not. You can't use your own hex edge twice if you have more than one train. So yeah.
And there's all these other mechanics, like, so you can buy, at the beginning of the game, there's this whole draft where you can buy independent companies that do different things, up to and including entire small independent railroads that run like a real company.
And eventually get brought into the big railroads.
But you, the player, buy them with your own money, but then maybe you sell them to one of your train companies. But the game ends, there's an amount of money. When that amount of money is taken from the bank, then the game ends.
Yeah, imagine playing Monopoly and the bank has $10,000 in it. I'm just making up a number.
Yeah, once that bank hits zero.
Right, and once the $10,000 in the bank is completely gone, the bank has zero left. You keep giving people money for that round until everyone has the amount of money they're supposed to have.
Yep.
And then whoever has the most wins.
So when that happens, then the winner is whoever themselves, not their companies, just themselves, has the most money between their money and the actual value of the stock they own. That's it.
Yeah, so this game has like the interesting parts of the game, right? You know, the large macro strategy parts is the big one is the buying of trains, because the trains go out of style and they become obsolete. And if the train company can't afford to buy newer, better trains, they're just done. They're screwed, right? So you have to basically get a big pile of money in the train company so that the train company can buy a larger, better, superior train like 2 or 3 times during the game. One happens almost immediately. Then there's the next one, which is a little hard, and then the final one, which is super hard.
And you can get into situations where older trains become like obsolete and run a little bit, and then they're just like literally worthless.
Yeah, those trains get like one last run, and then they're out. You better have the new train lined up, and it's like you have to make your trains companies profitable enough that they can keep upgrading the trains and get that final upgrade.
And you have to manage how much of the stock you buy versus how much you leave in the company.
Yeah, if you leave too many shares in the company, then you're sort of losing out on money and also leaving those stocks available to like be bought up by other people.
But you're letting the company profit from its own work instead of extracting that wealth early.
Yeah, but if you buy the shares you gotta buy, it's like you gotta buy them, but you don't want to buy them too early, you don't want to buy them too late.
But
you can also buy shares in other people's companies.
Yep, which is crucial.
To like, it's like, well, Rim's train company is better than mine. Doesn't mean I'm gonna lose. I could maybe buy all his shares out, right? Now his train company doesn't bring
It's interesting how accurate to the time the corporate stuff is.
Yep.
Because you are trying to extract as much wealth from the system as possible. You don't give a fuck about the train company.
Yeah, your train company doesn't have to be the best one. The strategy I saw Chris use a lot was have one train company, run it into the ground, then have a second one that comes in later, and that one runs to the end game.
Because when you found a train company, you do an IPO and you can pick the value of your stock.
Right, so it's like he makes a bunch of early game money by running one train company in the ground, uses that on a second train company that now has a bunch of money in its coffers so it can buy the better train. Anyway.
So in terms of play and the way it feels, you're using more real-world fuzzy heuristics.
Also, when that second train company comes in, it doesn't really need to buy tracks because there's already tracks everywhere.
Exactly. But you sort of have to just play it and explore these mechanics and kind of bounce off of them. Like, if you play this game with anyone who's played it before, you'll have fun. You'll lose.
Yeah, I think that's the one best thing I can say about this game. Even though it is a competitive skill game and also has a historical element and a thematic element, right? And it takes a while. I've never been upset by losing or winning at this game.
Yeah, it's an experience.
It's just like, oh, you get to have a bunch of fun times playing trains, running trains, buying and selling stocks, and it feels good. It doesn't feel like some roll and move garbage like Monopoly. It's all decisions. There's not like what luck is there in this game? Nothing. Is there any luck at all in this goddamn
just
thing?
The initial drafting.
Yeah. I don't think there's not a deck, there's not a dice roll, there's not a nothing.
Yep.
Right? And it just feels way good the whole time, so you don't really, you don't get too upset. And even though I don't think I've ever won, I've always done well enough, had like a bunch of monies. It's not like I got blowed up. and sat there getting the shit kicked out of me.
But I could play this a few more times, and I'm curious about trying the because apparently, as from what I gather, this one is probably the most accessible.
Yeah, I don't see a reason to play the other ones unless you're a super trained nerd,
or unless you've played this one a bunch of times and you're kind of sick of it.
Yeah. The one thing is that every time I play this, I've played it 3 times now.
Also, actually playing one of the other ones might give insight, like if the rules are a little different about a corporate thing.
Yeah.
Like strategies back
I think you'd only do that if you're way into it.
True.
Right? If you're just a board gamer in general, it's like you're going to try one of them, try this one.
If you want to try a game that's more like these simulatory, wargamey, like weird stuff, this is a pretty good one for a Eurogamer to try, as long as you have someone who is going to teach you and do the rituals.
Yeah. Anyway, so the one thing about this game, I played it 3 times, and even though I played it 3 times, there's plenty of times to learn the rules of a game, is that there's much time between plays that I sort of forget not the general rules, but these small details, right? When exactly do these trains expire? When exactly can you start doing this versus doing that and whatnot? And those details matter a lot. So what happens is I forget those details the next time I play, and I'll make a mistake. For example, the most recent time we played at PAX Unplugged, I definitely made a huge mistake. I did something on a turn, and there was no reason I couldn't have done that thing a turn earlier, which would have been just better. I just did it a turn later than I could have for no reason, just because I didn't realize I could at that time, and that cost me some money, whatever, right? But it's like, if I could play the game twice in a row, or twice very close to each other, I would basically remember all those tiny details that I've probably have already forgotten since PAX Unplugged in the first game, like the warm-up, remember how to play, remember all the details game,
Yup.
and then play a second game with no excuses and no forgetting of those details, and probably perform really well. Like, I give myself an actual above 0% chance of winning if I could play twice in a row in Game 2. In Game 1, no, 0% chance. But in Game 2, I think if I played twice in a row, I would have a greater than 0% chance of winning.
So you want to know the kind of person who plays this game? I'm looking at Board Game Geek. I just had like the screenshot up.
Yep.
The first comment, someone commented on this individual picture, and the comment is, why is there a city tile on the hex immediately to the west of Detroit? And sure enough, there's one there. Because there's no city there in the game. And the next response is, did they house rule Ann Arbor in? And yet a third person, basically there's a lot of people chatting about this error in this one random screenshot on Board Game Geek.
You mean photograph?
Yeah.
It's not a screenshot.
It's a screenshot.
It's not a screenshot.
Screenshot
No.
of Board Game.
It's not.
I'm going with that.
Okay. It's a photograph.
But someone noticed that, and there is a robust discussion in this one thread about literally this one picture among dozens.
Yeah. So yeah, if you are at all, it's like, if you hear people talk about like these, things that, it's sort of like I talked about back in the day, Fist of the North Star. You keep hearing about Fist of the North Star, but you never actually go to watch it, right? It's just like a thing that's in your hobby, a thing you keep hearing about, but you never experience it yourself. You keep hearing about like super nerdy train games, super nerdy war games, or things like that, but you never actually go and play them ever. You just know that that's sort of out there. It's like, it's out there. You heard of it. It's a thing. Go check it out at least once.
Yep.
It might be worth it. You might like it. You might discover something new. And even if not, you'll learn something, and then you'll learn. You just don't have to do it again.
Yeah, and actually, to be honest, this game is literally the reason why I was inspired to make that new panel on the top 40 or the 40 board games you should play. Well, tabletop games, because I'm going to sneak some RPGs and card games in there.
Yeah.
Because, yeah. So, yeah, we enjoyed this game. And it's the kind of game that a lot of people who know us would assume we would not enjoy, and shows what you know.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't buy it. I wouldn't play.
Oh no, I would not play it without someone who was able to do the rituals.
I
for me.
wouldn't play it super frequently, but it's the kind of thing I could play. Maybe a few more times before I've had enough of it, and I don't think I could keep enjoying it forever though.
Yeah.
But it's like it's
well,
still.
because eventually you've explored all the sort of mechanics, and once you've explored them, if you actually try to hyper optimize the game, I don't know if it would still be fun.
I have no interest in that, but It's just like it's a really, in terms of, even though it's cost a lot of time to play, I can't get over the fact you get so much value. Like you're constantly doing stuff that whole time. And it's like every time I've played it, like time has flown by. And it's like, whoa, it's already that time. And it's like, because you're just playing the whole time. There's no downtime where you're getting bored or feeling like it's long.
Yeah. I also do like the simple thing that I wish more games did of if you have a machine you can crank or a thing you can operate, the turns are do the stock thing, and then you crank that machine twice.
Yeah, and you're
Too
always...
many machine games don't let you crank it enough times.
And you're
the other game that does this is oh my goods.
The decisions you're making are engaging and interesting, and you have a lot of flexibility to be creative. It's like you have money. What are you going to do with it, businessman?
But just a lot of games, if you have a machine that players can crank, let them crank it more. The game's going to feel better.
Yep.
Go my goods. At the end of the game, crank it twice.
Yep.
I like that. I haven't seen that enough.
Mm-hmm. All right. I'm so hungry.
I can smell what Emily's cooking in there, so it's food time.
Can you smell?